What if I told you that the happiest day of your life might have already happened, and you missed it? Not because it wasn't good enough, but because you were too busy chasing the next thing to even notice it. I know that sounds dramatic, but this hit me like a punch to the gut at 3:17 a.m. one night. With cold pizza in my lap, three empty energy drinks on the floor, and a bank account sitting at $14.22. I had everything I thought I wanted, sort of. A decent job, a girlfriend. I wasn't living in my parents' basement anymore, but I felt nothing, just numb, like life was happening around me, not to me. And then I remembered something weird, something from a year earlier, back when everything was actually worse on paper. But I was waking up excited, hungry, alive. That night, sitting in the dark, I realized I wasn't broken. The system was. The way we think about success, happiness, living your best life, it's all backwards. This video might piss some people off, especially if you've built your whole identity around chasing goals. But if you've ever felt stuck, numb, empty, even while doing everything right, then maybe this is the story you didn't know you needed. Because I'm going to tell you how I lost 87 pounds, rebuilt my life from zero, and still ended up in a spiral. Until I figured out what no one tells you. The thing that saved me? And might just flip your whole perspective. This isn't a self-help pep talk. This is the story of how chasing happiness almost killed mine, and what I did to take it back. And it starts with the biggest lie I ever believed. I'll be happy when... I used to think life was like a video game. You grind hard, level up, get the gear, beat the boss, then boom, happiness unlocked. Simple, clean, predictable. So I built a mental checklist, like a personal quest log. Lose weight, get a decent job, find a relationship, move out, be normal, be successful, whatever that meant. And every night I'd tell myself the same thing. Once I check these boxes, then I'll be happy. That's when real life begins. I didn't realize I was bargaining with my own happiness. Like it was some reward I had to earn before I was allowed to feel it. At 23, I was stuck, not just physically, but emotionally paralyzed. 265 pounds, living in my parents' basement, surviving off takeout, barely speaking to anyone outside my raid team. And I wasn't even miserable in the loud, dramatic kind of way. I was numb. The kind of numb that makes days blur together. The kind where you wake up already tired, like your soul hasn't had rest in years. I'd scroll through social media, watching people my age traveling, laughing, holding hands at sunset, while I was sitting in a dark room with blackout curtains and empty Monster cans on the floor. I told myself I was just in a transition phase, like I was buffering, waiting for life to start. And every time I failed to make progress, I'd say, it's fine. Once I lose the weight, once I get a job, once I have someone who loves me, then I'll feel better. What I didn't see was how that mindset was quietly eating me alive. You start believing that today doesn't matter, that you don't matter until you become the better version of yourself. I was shrinking my existence to this hypothetical future that never arrived, and it got worse when I actually started making progress. I remember the first time I got paid for a job. Like real money, not tips, not gig stuff, but a legit deposit. I stared at the number in my account, and I waited. Waited to feel proud. Waited to feel like I'd made it. Like I mattered. But all I felt was flat. Like I had just crossed a finish line that led to another race. The same thing happened when I lost 30 pounds. I stepped on the scale, saw the number I'd dreamed about for months, and instead of joy, I felt anxiety. What if I gain it back? Why don't I feel different? No celebration, no breakthrough. Oh, just a voice in my head whispering, not enough, keep going. That voice was relentless. And here's the messed up part. I thought it was motivation, but it wasn't. It was self-hate in a Halloween costume, disguised as ambition. I thought chasing goals would lead me to happiness, but the chase itself became the trap. I was living in a loop, like a character in a game who keeps completing quests but never levels up, just resets every day, still waiting for that one epic drop that changes everything. But the game was rigged, because I didn't need a legendary item. I needed a new reason to get out of bed. And the scariest part? No one around me even noticed. I was doing better, so people assumed I was fine. I smiled when I needed to, laughed at the right times. But inside, I felt like a movie set, polished on the outside, empty behind the scenes. That's when I started asking myself questions I'd been avoiding for years. Why do I think I need to suffer before I can be happy? Whose definition of success am I even chasing? What if happiness isn't a reward, but a skill? I didn't have answers yet, but I knew one thing for sure: the path I was on wasn't working. And whether I admitted it or not, I was headed for a breakdown. Rock bottom doesn't always look like a dramatic movie scene. Sometimes it looks like a normal Tuesday. For me, it was 3:17 a.m. The room was dark. Not emotionally, literally. Curtains drawn, lights off. Just the blue glow from my monitor lighting up my face like a ghost. I had a half-eaten pizza on one knee, my phone in the other, and I was scrolling through job listings I didn't even want to apply for. I was halfway through my fifth takeout meal that week. I had 14.22 in my account. And I wasn't even surprised, just darda. My girlfriend had broken up with me 2 weeks earlier. She didn't say it in these words, but I knew why. I wasn't present. I wasn't there. I was just existing next to her. That night, sitting there with my bank account flashing red and my inbox full of "we regret to inform you" emails, something snapped. Not in an explosive way, not a meltdown, more like a slow leak of everything I was trying to hold together. I just sat there, completely still, for 47 minutes. I know that because I checked the timestamp. Didn't cry, didn't move, just stared at the screen. And the only thought I had was, is this it? Is this what life is? The scary part wasn't how bad things were. The scary part was how used to it I had become. That night, something inside me broke. Not in a tragic way, but in a necessary one. Like a bone that finally snaps so it can heal the right way. I didn't suddenly get motivated. I didn't have an epiphany or listen to a podcast that changed my life. What I had was silence. And that silence felt like truth. No excuses, no distractions. Just this voice in my head, finally speaking without the background noise. You're not tired of life. You're tired of living the wrong one. It hit me then. I wasn't depressed because I was lazy. I was depressed because I'd built my whole self around outcomes I didn't actually care about. And I kept thinking, why didn't anyone tell me? Why didn't anyone warn me that doing everything right could still feel so wrong? That was my climax, not some huge blowout, not some dramatic gesture, just this unbearable clarity that I had no idea who I was. Beyond the things I was trying to fix. And you know what's wild? No one around me would have guessed I was at rock bottom. I still posted memes, still laughed at texts, still replied "LOL, I'm good." But inside, I was suffocating. And the scariest part? I didn't even want to succeed anymore because every time I got closer to a goal, I just felt more pressure, more emptiness, more nothing. That's when I started remembering moments from a year before, when things were actually worse. Objectively. But I was alive. I remembered my first walk around the block. I was 265 pounds and out of breath in 4 minutes, but my heart was pounding in a way that felt alive. I remembered applying to one job per day and feeling this tiny jolt of excitement every time I hit submit. Like maybe, just maybe, something was changing. And I remembered talking to a girl at a coffee shop once, palms sweaty, voice shaking. But I left smiling like an idiot because it wasn't about success. It was about trying. Back then, nothing was guaranteed. Nothing was perfect. But I was proud of myself because I was showing up. That night at 3:17 a.m., I realized I had traded progress for perfection. And in doing that, I had killed my own joy. I'd been so focused on fixing myself that I forgot how to feel myself. How to experience life without grading every moment as a success or failure. I wasn't chasing goals anymore. I was chasing permission to exist. And the worst part? I know I'm not the only one. We live in a culture that tells you to hustle harder, level up, don't stop till you win. But no one tells you what to do when you win and still feel empty. No one tells you how to sit with yourself in the quiet. No one teaches you how to just be. That night was the beginning of something different. Not some huge glow up, but something softer, more honest. I didn't fix everything overnight, But I did make one decision that changed everything. I stopped trying to be impressive, and I started trying to be present. But here's the thing no one tells you. Presence doesn't happen by accident. It's something you have to fight for, especially when everything around you is screaming, more, better, faster. And fighting for it doesn't mean quitting your job or running off to a cabin in the woods. Sometimes it's just putting your phone down for 20 minutes. Sometimes it's choosing to feel bored instead of numbing out. That first night, I didn't delete all my apps or start journaling or read a life-changing book. I just turned off my screen, sat in the quiet, and let myself feel like crap. No distractions, no coping. Just me, my breath, and a room that smelled like regret and cold cheese. But even in that, something shifted. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't running from myself. And I know how hard that is, especially if you're used to being the strong one, the reliable one, the achiever, the one who has it all together, or at least looks like it. When your whole life is performance, authenticity feels terrifying. Because what if you slow down, take off the mask, and there's nothing underneath? I had that fear too. But here's what I learned. There is something underneath. And it's not nothing. It's you, before the world told you who you had to become. That night, I started remembering who that person was. Not the guy trying to be impressive, but the one who laughed too loud at dumb jokes. The one who cried during Pixar movies, the one who used to build Lego sets just to feel like he was creating something. And yeah, that guy was flawed, insecure, kind of weird, but he was real. And I missed him. The breakdown wasn't really a breakdown, it was a reckoning, a moment of truth. Not the kind you post about with a pretty filter and a quote from Brené Brown. The ugly kind, the lonely kind. The kind where healing doesn't feel inspiring, it just feels necessary. That was the moment I stopped waiting for my real life to start. I stopped believing that I was a before picture. I stopped putting happiness on layaway. And in that stillness, broken, confused, unsure, I made a promise to myself. I'm going to learn how to enjoy the climb, not just the view. I didn't know exactly how, but I knew the first step. And it wasn't a big one. It was this. Tomorrow morning, I was going to get up, put on clean clothes, and take one walk around the block. Not to burn calories, not to clear my mind, just to be in the world. That was it. One walk, 1 mile, one moment of choosing to show up, not as the future me I was obsessed with becoming, but as the broken, uncertain version I already was. That's what real change looks like. Not fireworks, not sudden confidence, just choosing to care, even when it feels pointless. You don't rebuild your life in one decision. You rebuild it one tiny, almost invisible act at a time. And every time you do, every time you resist the urge to numb out or disappear, you lay another brick. And eventually you look around and realize you've built something. That night at 3:17 a.m. didn't fix me, but it woke me up. It reminded me that I don't need to be perfect to be present. I don't need to make it to be allowed to feel joy. I just need to show up and keep showing up. Even if it's ugly, even if it's slow, even if I have to start from rock bottom with a smile that barely holds together. Because sometimes that's exactly where the real story begins. The morning after that breakdown wasn't glamorous. There was no sunrise moment, no epic playlist swelling in the background. Just me standing by the front door, staring at a pair of dusty sneakers. I hadn't worn them in months. They still had grass stains from the last time I tried to get my life together. But I laced them up, slowly, and I stepped outside. It was colder than I expected, and for a second I almost turned back. But I didn't. I walked. 1 block. That's it. No fitness tracker, no music. Just my breath, the sound of my feet, and the quiet realization that I was still here. And that mattered. That tiny walk didn't change the world, but it changed something. Something inside me shifted, like I'd made a promise to myself, and for once I kept it. So I did it again the next day, and the day after that. Sometimes just 5 minutes, sometimes 10. But every time I came back a little bit lighter, not physically, but mentally, that's when I started stacking little wins. Not big, dramatic life changes, just small things that made me feel like I was participating in my own life again. I swapped one Monster Energy for water. That was it. One swap, no diet plan, No pressure, just a choice. I applied for one job per day, not 10, not even two, just one. Submit, shut the laptop, done. I didn't set goals that overwhelmed me. I set commitments that made me proud to show up. And the wild thing? These tiny changes felt huge. Not because they fixed everything, but because they reminded me I wasn't helpless, I wasn't broken. I was still capable of trying, and trying felt good. One night I found myself laughing, like actually laughing, at a dumb video a friend sent. That's when I realized joy had started sneaking back in when I wasn't looking. Not because I deserved it, but because I was finally making space for it, and it wasn't just about happiness. It was about meaning, purpose. That sense of, I'm doing something that matters, even if it's small. There's something powerful about progress when it's not tied to pressure, when it's not about proving anything to anyone. It's like the difference between chasing a trophy and building something with your hands. One is external validation. The other, internal transformation. And weirdly, the game that once numbed me out, World of Warcraft, helped me understand this. I used to grind for hours to get this legendary sword. Told myself, once I get that, the game will be fun again. But it wasn't. The sword didn't matter. The grind, the journey, did. It was the late-night missions, the teamwork, the fails and retries that made it exciting. The goal gave me direction, but the experience gave me life. That's when it clicked. Life works the same way. The fulfillment is in the process, the growth, the showing up even when it's hard. And the more I embraced that, the more present I became. I started noticing things again, the way sunlight hit the sidewalk, the smell of fresh coffee, the quiet victory of folding laundry instead of letting it pile up. I wasn't chasing a finish line anymore. I was building a life, moment by moment, step by step. Eventually, the outside stuff came too. I lost 87 pounds, landed a solid job, met someone who saw me for who I was, not just who I was trying to become. But here's what's wild. Those weren't the things that made me happy. They were just byproducts of learning how to live again. And honestly, I felt the most alive back when I was still figuring it out. When I was nervous before job interviews, when I was breathless during my first mile run, when I made awkward jokes on first dates. That's the part no one talks about. The middle. The messy middle where nothing's certain, but everything's possible. We're taught to glorify the before and after photos. But the real transformation happens in the blurry in-between. That's where the soul grows. The point isn't to arrive. The point is to fully, authentically, without needing to be fixed first. I still have bad days. I still doubt myself. But I've learned that the goal isn't to feel good all the time. The goal is to feel everything and keep going anyway. To keep choosing yourself. One walk, one decision, one honest moment at a time. That's how you build a meaningful life, not by chasing perfection, but by practicing presence. Here's the part no one tells you. And honestly, most people don't even realize it until they've hit the wall. There is no finish line. No magic moment when everything clicks and you're suddenly permanently happy. You don't arrive at joy, you practice it, you notice it, you create space for it. And that's why so many people, especially ambitious ones, feel lost after they hit their goals. They climbed the mountain, took the photo at the top, and realized there's no parade waiting, just another mountain. I used to think those people on Instagram, the ones with the abs, the travel pics, the dream jobs, were living on some higher level of joy, like they had a code I didn't have. But here's what I learned. They're either feeling the same emptiness, or they're already chasing the next thing, hoping that maybe this time the feeling will stick. That's the trap. The chase never ends unless you end it. I had to ask myself a brutal question. What if happiness isn't waiting at the end of the road? What if it's scattered along the way and I've been walking right past it? It forced me to rewire how I think. I stopped asking, how do I get there, Masade, and started asking, what's worth showing up for today? And the answer was never dramatic. It was small, it was simple, it was honest. Cooking a real meal instead of microwaving one. Texting someone just to say, I'm thinking of you. Drinking coffee while watching the sun come up instead of checking my notifications. None of these things would make a highlight reel, but they made me feel real. And that's what I was missing. Not success, not confidence, just aliveness. The more I leaned into that, the more I noticed something powerful. Joy wasn't hiding. I had just trained myself not to look for it unless it came with proof of progress. Think about that. How often do we dismiss a moment because it doesn't move us forward? Like presence has to be productive. Like stillness has to be earned. That belief, it's exhausting. And it's everywhere. Hustle culture, toxic positivity, the pressure to always do better. It's all built on the idea that your current self is a problem to solve, not a person to honor. But what if you're not a problem? What if you're just a human, growing, learning, unlearning, and that's enough? The real secret is this. Your dream life isn't waiting in the future. It's waiting in your attention. It's not about doing something epic. It's about doing something intentional. Walking just a little further than you did yesterday. Listening to music with your whole body instead of just hearing it. Saying no to something because your peace matters more than your image. These aren't glamorous acts, but they're revolutionary because they teach your brain, I am enough right now. And once you believe that, even just a little, it changes everything. Not overnight, but over time. You stop chasing validation, you stop outsourcing your self-worth, and you start finding meaning in the exact place you used to overlook. Right here, right now. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the goal was never to become someone else. Maybe it was to remember who you were before the world told you what you had to be. If you're still waiting for life to begin, I'll say this with love. It already has. You're in it. Messy, beautiful, chaotic, uncomfortable. This is it. And if you can stop waiting, even for a second, you might just realize you're already standing in the life you once dreamed of. You just forgot how to notice. That's not just inspiring, that's freedom. So now I'll turn the question to you. Not the version of you that performs, not the one who nods and scrolls. The real you. The one who might have forgotten how to breathe without feeling guilty. What if you've already walked past some of the best moments of your life? Because you were too focused on what's next to notice what's now. What if the version of you that's enough isn't waiting at the finish line, but quietly sitting inside you, just asking to be seen? I know it's scary to slow down, especially when your whole identity is built on momentum, on proving yourself, on being on your way. But if you've ever had a moment, even just one, where everything felt meaningless, even when it should have felt great, you already know what I'm talking about. That emptiness? It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's your mind and body saying, we can't keep doing this. So start small. You don't need a total life reset, and you just need one honest moment. One question, one shift. Ask yourself, what's something I used to love that I've buried under being productive? When was the last time I did something without expecting a result? If I pause the chase, what feeling might finally catch up to me? Don't rush the answers. Just sit with them, let them breathe. This part matters. And if this video spoke to something inside you, if it put language to a feeling you couldn't explain, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Not for views, not for metrics. Just because your story might unlock something for someone else. Or for you. And if you want to come back to this kind of space, to be reminded you're not alone, that growth doesn't have to be loud, you're always welcome here. Hit like, subscribe if it feels right. Or don't. No pressure. This isn't a funnel, it's a conversation, a real one. The kind we don't get enough of, but deeply, deeply need. If you've made it this far, thank you. Not just for watching, but for feeling this with me. That's rare. And it means more than you know. If today reminded you that you're not alone, or gave you something to hold on to, share this with someone who might need it too. Not because we're trying to go viral, but because real stories matter, and we need more of them. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and the moments in between. You're not behind. You're already in it. Just keep showing up one step at a time.